Tonight, breaking news on the debt deal breakdown as lawmakers race to avoid a catastrophic government default. Negotiations back on hours after Republican leadership announced a pause in the talks, fueling fears both sides will fail to reach an agreement before time runs out. The eyes of the world watching as President Biden meets with G7 leaders in Japan. The U.S. and Western allies finally agreeing to send F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine. The reaction coming in as President Zelensky heads to Hiroshima for a critical face-to-face meeting. Leaker release denied. The U.S. airman accused of spilling government secrets online, ordered to remain behind bars until his trial. Tonight, mounting questions about why he wasn't stopped sooner, despite being caught red-handed on 3 separate occasions, and the newly uncovered video showing him shouting racial slurs. Bracing for charges, the DA investigating former President Trump's efforts to overturn the 2020 election in Georgia, teasing a potential timeline for criminal charges to come down. The 3 weeks this summer she's zeroing in on. Massive wildfires burning out of control in Canada, blanketing the skies over the northern U.S. with smoke. Air quality alerts issued from Montana to Minnesota to Colorado. What officials are now urging residents to do to stay safe. Plus, Pride Night outrage. The LA Dodgers uninviting a group of drag performers from their annual Pride Night after conservative Catholics, including Senator Marco Rubio, complained their nun attire was offensive. The growing criticism the team is now facing, and what we're hearing from those performers tonight. And one step at a time. Tonight, the story of an inspiring college grad whose long road to recovery ended with this short but powerful walk across the stage. Top story starts right now. Good evening. I'm Gabe Gutierrez in for Tom Llamas. We begin Top Story tonight with that breaking news. Moments ago, lawmakers were resuming negotiations to reach a debt ceiling deal just hours after Republicans announced they were pausing the talks. But still, time is running out with just 2 weeks left to reach a deal. A failure to reach said deal could tank the stock market, cost Americans their jobs, and even trigger a recession. That turmoil back home casting a shadow over President Biden's high-profile trip to Japan, where the leaders of the world's 7 largest democracies have gathered. The world watching anxiously, with growing fears a U.S. default would send the entire global economy into a tailspin. The other major international headline tonight, Ukrainian President Zelensky planning to join that summit later this weekend, a risky move at a critical moment for the war in Ukraine. But even before his arrival, already a major win, the U.S. and its allies agreeing to provide F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, something Zelensky has been pleading for more than a year. But first, that late-breaking news on the debt negotiations. Chief White House correspondent Kristen Welker is traveling with President Biden in Hiroshima. Kristen, what are we hearing from the Hill right now?
Well, Gabe, we just learned that there's a big update on those debt limit talks. Both sides now saying they're reconvening right now. That's according to the Speaker in the White House. And earlier today, the House Speaker had announced talks had hit a snag and were on pause.
Well, we've got to get movement by the White House, and we don't have any movement yet. So, yeah, we got to pause.
It comes just 24 hours after all sides had expressed optimism toward a deal. The president and Congress facing a looming deadline to avoid a catastrophic default in less than 2 weeks. If America's debt limit is not raised, top economists warn it could tank the stock market, impacting 401ks, lead to job losses, and spark a recession. House Republicans earlier passed a plan to raise the debt limit if Democrats agreed to spending cuts. Republicans tonight saying a major sticking point, White House opposition to spending caps, which the GOP calls unreasonable.
Yesterday, I really felt we were at the location where I could see the path. The White House is just, Look, we can't be spending more money next year. We have to spend less than we spent the year before. It's pretty easy.
The White House tonight saying there are real differences between the parties on budget issues and talks will be difficult. The president's team is working hard towards a reasonable bipartisan solution that can pass the House and the Senate. Democrats are reluctant to accept a spending limit that's lower than current levels, a source familiar with the party's stance said. This from the top Senate Democrat earlier this week.
Nobody should ever use default as hostage, where they say, unless you do this, we will default, because the consequences would be disastrous.
The discord in Washington overshadowing the diplomatic efforts here in Japan, including news tonight that Ukraine's President Zelensky will travel to Hiroshima to make his case for more aid and weapons in person. Russia controls much of eastern Ukraine and has launched a new wave of attacks. But despite that timing, Ukraine officials say Zelensky's trip is critical. NBC's Molly Hunter is in Kyiv tonight.
Right now, Kyiv is facing unprecedented aerial assaults. The military planning a counteroffensive against Russian forces any day now. But President Zelensky's advisors say it is worth it. He is so persuasive in person, and he brings home what Kyiv needs.
And tonight, NBC News learning Zelensky is poised to get a major victory. The U.S. and allies now planning to provide F-16 fighter jets to Ukraine, according to a senior administration official. It's unclear which countries will provide the jets. Still, it's a move the Biden administration previously opposed.
Kristen Welker back with us now from Hiroshima. Kristen, President Zelensky has been saying fighter jets would be a game changer, but actually using them is a bit more complicated.
That's absolutely right, Gabe. And look, it could take weeks, even months, to deliver them. The White House had been concerned the move would provoke Russia. There was also the worry about the cost and how long it takes to train pilots. When Zelensky comes, he's expected to praise the move and likely ask the U.S. for even more aid. Gabe.
Kristen Welker leading us off from Japan. Kristen, thank you. Back here at home, a federal judge in Boston today ruled that the 21-year-old Air National Guardsman charged with leaking classified secrets must remain in jail pending trial. This as the government laid out previous red flags concerning top secret information. Here's Andrea Mitchell.
Tonight, a federal judge in Boston denouncing the conduct of former National Guardsman Jack Teixeira, arrested at his home last month, sternly telling him he has no confidence foreign countries wouldn't gain access to classified materials if he were released, and saying you could make a list as long as a phone book of people he put at risk. Military personnel, medical workers overseas, Ukrainian citizens. The judge citing government evidence that Teixeira was caught at least 3 times by superiors abusing his access to secrets, including taking notes on classified intelligence information he then pocketed and searching a secure database for content outside his assigned field. Yet no one took away his top secret security clearance.
Why didn't the military start monitoring his computer activity? This all could have been prevented. And the question is, why wasn't it?
The government also confirming this video, first reported by the Washington Post, showing Teixeira firing a rifle and shouting racist and anti-Semitic slurs. None of that was picked up by his background check. Prosecutors also says Teixeira used his government computer to look up mass shootings and standoffs with the FBI like Ruby Ridge, and defiantly telling chat room friends, I don't give an F what they say I can or can't share about top secrets.
And Andrea Mitchell joins us now from Washington. Andrea, what is the latest on the Air Force's investigation into this leak?
Well, 2 of Teixeira's superiors have been suspended. The Air Force is conducting that internal investigation. They've moved the intelligence operation from that Massachusetts base to another facility. But the government still does not know how many secrets he may have exposed. And the truth is, they may never know. Gabe.
Andrea Mitchell, thank you. Now to one of the investigations into former President Trump. The Georgia prosecutor investigating possible interference in the 2020 election teased that their decision on charges could be announced as soon as early August. Vaughn Hilliard has the latest.
Today, an indication of exactly when former President Trump and allies may face criminal charges in Atlanta. The Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis investigating efforts to overturn Trump's loss in Georgia in the presidential election outlined a 3-week period in August when she expects heightened attention around the Atlanta courthouse. The DA's investigation is vast, from a Rudy Giuliani-led legislative hearing focused on false statements about the election.
This election was a sham.
To Trump's infamous call to the Georgia Secretary of State.
All I want to do is this. I just want to find 11,780 votes, which is one more than we have.
As well as an alleged scheme to replace Joe Biden's Georgia electors with fake Trump electors. In a recent court filing, quote, 8 of the electors who were offered immunity accepted. Their possible cooperation could indicate the DA is focused on prosecuting bigger name targets, including potentially Trump. Trump and Giuliani say they've done nothing illegal.
And in the wings, they've got a local racist Democrat district attorney in Atlanta who is doing everything in her power to indict me over an absolutely perfect phone call.
Trump repeatedly attacking the district attorney with unfounded claims, even calling for her ouster from her job. This spring, his attorneys filed a motion to put a kibosh on the investigative report put together by the Georgia Special Grand Jury that interviewed more than 75 witnesses and recommended yet-to-be-disclosed criminal charges. One of their reasons? Claims that jurors have inappropriately talked about their deliberations, including the foreperson who foreshadowed who may be charged in an interview with NBC's Blaine Alexander.
There are certainly names that you would recognize, yes.
Georgia's investigation is not his only legal peril. Trump is facing his New York hush money payment trial ahead, as well as the federal special counsel's continued investigation into possible mishandling of classified information and his efforts to overturn the 2020 election in D.C. In both cases, he is saying there was no wrongdoing.
The only crime that I have committed is to fearlessly defend our nation from those who seek to destroy it.
But Trump's political standing only strengthening. His lead in the polls among Republican voters growing since his indictment in New York, going from a 16-point lead over DeSantis to a 36-point margin, now in an average of polls.
And now, Gabe, NBC News anticipates both Senator Tim Scott and Governor Ron DeSantis will make their formal presidential campaign announcements next week, adding to what is becoming a crowded GOP field to challenge Donald Trump. Gabe?
Vaughn Hilliard, thank you. As you just saw in Vaughn's story, former President Trump still leading his party in national polls. And so now I want to bring in a former member of his administration, one-time Department of Homeland Security official Ken Cuccinelli, who recently founded Never Back Down, a super PAC backing Governor DeSantis. Ken, thanks so much for joining Top Story. So, Ken, what changes when Governor DeSantis officially enters the race next week? Will he go after Trump more than he has so far?
Well, the most obvious thing is, as a candidate, he can turn what he's been describing as a Florida vision into a picture for Americans to understand how that matters in their life, no matter where they live in the United States of America. The principles apply everywhere. His reduction of debt and taxes and the growth of economic opportunity is something that we're seeing destroyed by Joe Biden, and in Florida we're seeing it grow. And Ron DeSantis can get out and talk about that at the federal level, not just in his state. That's a big difference in being able to sell himself to Republican voters.
But former President Trump has been going after Governor DeSantis quite a bit in the last few weeks. I'm sure you've seen it. The governor has not engaged very much on that. Do you expect that to change?
Maybe a little bit, but frankly, it's driving the former president crazy. And, you know, he started in attacking on COVID, which is something the president was in favor of lockdowns for. And Ron DeSantis bucked that trend and proved to everyone that he was right, including Florida voters. That was President Trump's first attack. And they've just continued coming. And they're weak attacks. And when one of the things, as you asked, what will change is I think the governor will be in a much better position, including legally, because he'll be a federal candidate once he gets in the race, to make the case as to why each of these fallacious attacks is really says more about Trump than it does anything bad about DeSantis. And he'll do what he did in COVID. He'll point to the scoreboard and say, let's look at what I've done. He has the most amazing track record of any chief executive in the country and it isn't even close. So that's going to be something that the Trump folks are afraid of. It's why they've been trying to keep him out of the race in the first place.
Well, but let's revisit the poll Vaughn just mentioned. Former President Trump is up 36 points on average, but Reuters Ipsos is showing a 28-point lead, CBS 36-point lead. Emerson has him up by 46. How can Governor DeSantis make that electability argument when he's getting slammed so much in these polls?
Well, we just saw a poll come out today out of Arizona that showed DeSantis beating Biden in Arizona and Trump losing to Biden in Arizona. So electability is about winning the presidency first and foremost, and DeSantis hasn't been in to make that case. It's all of us who are supportive of him, hoping he gets in, that are doing that, but that is not the same thing. There's no substitute for the candidate themselves. And when you've got somebody like Ron DeSantis, who has gone toe-to-toe with 4 of the largest media markets in the country for 5 years without really any mistakes, he is well prepared to make that case and to do it well.
So, Ken, how does the entrance of Senator Tim Scott change the dynamic of this race?
I don't think it changes anything. This is a known quantity coming, and I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. He has a voice. It won't change much from what he's been saying over the years, but I think Senator Scott is well liked, but he's never really had a hard race, and it's kind of hard to understand why he's even in this race. Ron DeSantis is the most favorably viewed chief executive in America today, bar none, either party. When you look at his favorables and his versus his unfavorables, and that's true whether you compare him to Trump or Biden or anybody else who's looking at running for president.
Well,
so he comes in a very good position for the governor, and he's got a lot of upside to share with people.
Well, someone or a company that does not think of him very favorably right now, at least, is Disney, of course. And we've been covering the governor's battle against Disney. Just yesterday, the company scrapped $1 billion investment in the state. How do you think this ongoing feud will play in a general election, not a primary?
Well, he's got to get through the primary to get to the general election. I think you'll see broad agreement in the general with this governor's lack of, he's not committed to any swath of the economy. He's committed to an open economy that offers opportunity for everyone. He's not a corporate sellout. He isn't an establishment person like Trump and some of the others. Trump's on Disney's side. Nikki Haley's on Disney's side. Republican voters are with Governor DeSantis in fighting back against these woke corporations trying to jam radical left-wing values, not just down our throats, but on our children. And that's where the real defense comes in. And that's where companies like Disney lose America, is when they go after our children. And Governor DeSantis has stood like a rock defending the children of Florida, and he'll defend the children of America.
And Ken, Governor DeSantis recently signed one of the most restrictive abortion bills in the country. Does an abortion ban after 6 weeks hurt him in a general election?
Well, again, the pro-life leg of the Republican Party is still alive and well. That'll be a big deal in the very first state. His commitment to life, when you look at his congressional record, he supported pain-capable bills. I wouldn't be surprised to hear him stick with that position just as he did in Congress. One of the things about Governor DeSantis as a pro-lifer, and along with every other issue, he's been consistent for 10 years. He doesn't just pick a new position because he thinks he can get a news story out of it like President Trump does. And that track record matters to voters who take their time to study the candidates, especially in the first third of the states where they view themselves as a bit of a filter before candidates can even get to the rest of America.
And Ken, you worked at the DHS under President Trump, and Governor DeSantis just signed a sweeping immigration bill that, among other things, included expanding E-Verify for Florida businesses. DeSantis is also sending more National Guard soldiers to the southern border. Do you think Governor DeSantis will run to the right of former President Trump on immigration?
Well, I think that's probably the case, and how you're characterizing right. I think that he has proven himself more capable in managing and leadership. And the fact of the matter is, while President Trump made a lot of good decisions as president, I was proud to help him implement those policies. He was often at odds with many of the people that he picked himself. He literally picked anti-Trump people to be in the Trump administration. And so he accomplished far less than he could have. And that would be the case again for only 4 years if he were to win again versus a DeSantis, who we've seen run one of the largest governments in America exceptionally well. He'll get more done, not just in 4 years, but he'll also have a full 8 years that he can be president, unlike Trump.
Ken Cuccinelli, the founder of Never Back Down, the pro-DeSantis super PAC. Thank you so much again for joining Top Story. And a big political interview coming up on Monday. Be sure to tune in for Tom's exclusive with Senator Tim Scott as he announces his bid for the White House on NBC Nightly News and right here at 7 p.m. Eastern on Top Story. That's Monday night. Now to an environmental disaster in Canada. Wildfires ripping through the western side of the country, causing thick smoke to blanket the skies. That smoke even causing health alerts here in the U.S. George Solis reports.
Hey, let's go. Tonight, the skies look apocalyptic over Western Canada, where nearly 100 raging wildfires, fueled by unusually high temperatures over the last few weeks, have sparked the evacuations of thousands.
About 19,479 Albertans remained evacuated at this time, and there are 13 reception centers that have registered evacuees.
The fires creating massive amounts of smoke, not only blanketing the skies, but also impacting the air quality across much of Canada and even the United States. Painting a picture, these before and after videos of the thick smoke washing over Calgary earlier this week. Satellite imagery showing the haze wafting over both countries. Minnesota issuing health alerts statewide through this morning, some level red, urging residents to stay inside. The normal big sky of Montana and North Dakota filled with smoke.
I don't know if I ever remember it this being thick. I've lived in North Dakota all of my life, and this is incredible, kind of incredibly scary.
NBC affiliate KFYR reporting one town recorded an air pollution index of more than 1,000 on Thursday.
I thought we had analyzers that were not functioning correctly, because I've never seen these kind of numbers before.
The EPA mapping out these states that are experiencing moderate to very unhealthy air quality levels. Back in Canada,
people should consider staying inside as much as possible.
There's growing concern these wildfires could impact global energy prices as the inferno forced some oil drillers in the region to halt production. One energy consultancy firm says an estimated 240,000 barrels of oil cannot be pumped daily.
To our local leaders, please track the expenses that may be mounting.
It's early for such wildfires to be burning so ferociously up north, and officials predict the situation is poised to grow only more dire into summer, saying it will be months before the fires can be brought under control without a shift in the weather.
I guess the good thing is that we haven't had a fatality to this point in time.
Right now, officials looking at any silver lining amidst the hellish landscape now before them. George Solis, NBC News.
George Solis, thank you. Now to the severe storm threat here, and let's get right to NBC News meteorologist Angie Lastman. Angie, what are we looking at?
We're looking at some severe storms. We've been watching through parts of the plains and really two storm systems that we're keeping a close eye on going into the weekend. We've got heavy rain in parts of the Carolinas, but we've also got the heavy rain along a cold front that stretched from the Great Lakes down to parts of Texas. We do have those severe thunderstorm watches that have already gone into effect and will stay in effect until 8 p.m. Central Time for parts of Oklahoma, Arkansas, and into northern parts of Texas, and then South Central Texas. We'll see that thunderstorm watch last until 10 p.m. We've seen numerous thunderstorm warnings as well stretched across these areas, including near Dallas. We look down towards, again, southern and south central parts of Texas, where those severe thunderstorm warnings are going to keep coming here over the next couple of hours. We're watching that mainly in this area, the Dallas, Waco, Austin, San Antonio, San Angelo area, all included in this for 13 million people. The hazards do include the hail, the strong winds. We've had numerous reports of up to 1-inch size hail. No tornadoes so far, but there is a possibility that we could see one or two of these through the rest of the evening. The biggest threat is going to be that baseball-size hail. This area shaded in blue is where we have the greatest chance for that. Now, the storm system is going to continue to work its way to the east, unfortunately impacting those weekend plans as we head into tomorrow. Great Lakes dealing with some of this heavy rain, and then it'll start to work into the interior parts of the mid-Atlantic and eventually the northeast, dumping heavy amounts of rain. But this coastal low kind of gets together with that system and brings brings even heavier rain to parts of the Northeast. Boston, New York, and up into parts of Maine will see heavy amounts of rain, anywhere from 3 to 5 inches when it's all said and done, Gabe.
A lot to watch through the weekend, Angie. Thank you. And now to Georgia, and a major break in the famous and disturbing Baby India case from 4 years ago. A newborn found alive in a plastic bag abandoned in the woods. Authorities now announcing a woman is under arrest. Stephanie Gosk has the new details.
The shocking body cam video from 4 years ago is hard to watch. A newborn baby wrapped in a plastic bag.
This child was tied up in a plastic bag and thrown into the woods like a bag of trash.
Today, police in Georgia announced an arrest.
We've had a major breakthrough in what we've all known as the Baby India case.
Karima Jawani, Baby India's mother, faces multiple charges, including intent to commit murder and cruelty to children.
Evidence also reveals a history of hidden and concealed pregnancies and surprise births in Ms. Jawani's history.
The sheriff seemingly wearing every day of the 4-year investigation on his face.
How a parent, and I happen to be one too, can do such a callous thing is both incomprehensible to all of us, and it's infuriating.
The case relied on DNA evidence with multiple agencies involved, including the FBI.
I didn't have to motivate our team to do this. You know, every detective assigned to this case primarily happened to be a parent themselves.
4 years ago, a family heard the baby's cries.
That family happened to arrive home when they weren't supposed to and happened to go back outside.
The sheriff calls it divine intervention, together with some pretty remarkable and dedicated police work. Stephanie Gosk, NBC News.
Still ahead tonight, Pride Night outrage, a group of drag performers who dress up like nuns at the center of a growing controversy in Los Angeles. Why the Dodgers invited, then uninvited them from a Pride Night. Plus, a stunning arrest of a police officer in Washington, D.C. The sensitive information authorities allege he shared with the far-right group, the Proud Boys, and then allegedly lied about it. And a high-end heist caught on camera in New Jersey. How much those thieves got away with and where the investigation stands now. Stay with us. Now to the latest Pride Night controversy rocking the world of sports. The LA Dodgers under fire for uninviting a drag group to their annual celebration of the LGBTQ community. How a U.S. senator from a different state may have sparked the team's decision. Marissa Parra has the story.
Tonight, the LA Dodgers mired in a Pride Night controversy. The team facing backlash for rescinding a community award and a Pride Night invitation to the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, a historic drag group that describes themselves as queer and trans nuns devoted to charity work.
Our group are feeling angry. Some are feeling very sad. My feeling is disappointment.
Sister Unity is a founding member of the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence LA chapter.
It's not disappointment about the award. It's disappointment that an organization as strong and as important as the Dodgers actually relented and caved in so quickly after the objections were raised.
The move coming after Florida Senator Marco Rubio sent a letter to the MLB blasting the group's inclusion in the Pride Night event, calling the sisters, quote, a lewd imitation of Roman Catholic nuns, and saying the group intentionally mocks and degrades Christians. That letter not sitting well with some locals.
It wasn't his business in Florida.
The conservative-leaning Catholic League also writing a letter to the MLB commissioner saying, quote, if a group of white boys in blackface were to be honored by an MLB team, there is little doubt that the event would be canceled. There is no difference between this and the hateful farce of awarding the sisters.
We don't mock Catholic nuns. We borrow from them. There's a little good-natured, joyful ribbing, but we honor their work and we assume it as well for our community.
The Dodgers announcing Wednesday they were uninviting the group to the June 16th event, quote, given the strong feelings of people who have been offended by the sisters' inclusion in the evening. Senator Rubio responded to the Dodgers' move in a tweet saying, quote, for once, common sense prevailed in California. His office declined our request for an interview. This as members of the LGBTQ community rallies around the sisters, sharing disappointment with the uninvitation. LA Pride and the LA LGBT Center both announcing they're pulling out of Dodgers Pride Night altogether this year.
Certainly there's a financial hit that this has caused for the center by not participating, but it was really important for us to make sure that we were in alliance with the sisters, and participating just would have felt like a betrayal to our community.
I just think it's really sad because we're going backwards and not forward.
Congressman Jimmy Gomez, who represents the district where the Dodgers play, firing back, tweeting, after 10 years of the Dodgers supporting the LGBTQ plus community, it's deeply offensive that they would turn their back on them now. The sisters say they're working to find a way forward as they grapple with the team's decision.
I feel it's a learning opportunity, and I would like to see if the Dodgers, in fact, have a waking up moment to realize that they balance all the communities in Los Angeles.
Marissa Parra joins us now live from Los Angeles. And Marissa, what more can you tell us about the reaction to the Dodgers' decision tonight, and how do we expect this Pride Night to play out?
Yeah, well, we want to point out that we did reach out to both the MLB and the Dodgers. Both of them chose to not comment for this report. But we have seen some calling for a boycott of the Dodgers Pride Night event altogether, including Long Beach Congressman Robert Garcia. So listen, there are still weeks to go, and both the team and the league may have a whole lot more to answer for between now and June 16th. Gabe?
Marissa Parra, thank you. And when we come back, a major recall issued by Target. More than 5 million candles pulled off the shelves, while regulators warn they can cause burns and even cuts. That's next. Back now with Top Stories news feed, and we begin with the stunning arrest of a D.C. police officer. Federal prosecutors say Lieutenant Shane Lamond leaked confidential information to Enrique Tarrio, the leader of the extremist group the Proud Boys, and then lied to investigators about it. Those leaks include warning Tarrio about his impending arrest for destroying a Black Lives Matter banner and sharing sensitive details about the January 6th investigation. He's been on administrative leave since February of 2022. And an investigation is underway after a high-end handbag heist in New Jersey. Video posted to social media showing several masked thieves taking purses from a Dior store in the Short Hills Mall near New York City before sprinting away. Authorities say the suspects took 25 bags valued at $120,000. No arrests yet. An FDA advisory panel just voted to recommend Pfizer's new RSV vaccine for women who are pregnant. The committee is hopeful that giving the shot to women late in pregnancy will allow them to pass down antibodies to their babies, protecting them from the respiratory virus. The CDC reporting RSV causes as many as 80,000 hospitalizations among children younger than 5 each year. The vaccine is still pending final FDA approval. And Target recalling more than 5 million candles over cut and burn hazards. Regulators saying the recall affects Threshold branded candles in a variety of scents, which come in glass jars that may crack during use and hurt people. Target has received at least 137 reports of jars breaking, resulting in 6 injuries. The candles can be returned to Target for a full refund. Now to Louisiana and the video that led Hertz to apologize for the behavior of an employee, all because a Puerto Rican man, an American citizen, was denied his prepaid rental car. Here's Miguel Almaguer with the details.
It is a valid ID. Humberto Marchin began recording when tensions at the rental car center in New Orleans escalated.
Would you like me to call the police?
Yes, please, call the police. The 54-year-old Puerto Rican was being denied his prepaid rental after a Hertz employee demanded a passport, suggesting his out-of-the-country driver's license wasn't enough to secure his car.
Do you know that my driver's license in Puerto Rico is as valid as a Louisiana driver's license?
At that point, when I saw that the supervisor didn't want to have to do anything with me already, she wanted no business with me, I was definitely disappointed.
At Louis Armstrong Airport earlier this month, Marchin tried to explain all Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens and that their driver's license are as valid as any other from the mainland. But when police arrived, this body cam footage obtained by CBS News shows the officer side with the Hertz employee, who tells Marchin not to come back.
Feeling that you treat like a second-class citizen unnecessarily, totally unnecessarily.
Hertz, who accepts Puerto Rican driver's licenses, says it regrets that our policy was not followed and apologized. Just last month, a Puerto Rican family leaving L.A. was stopped from boarding their Spirit Airlines flight because their 2-year-old didn't have a passport. Tonight, like Hertz, Spirit apologized, saying next time services won't be denied. Miguel Almaguer, NBC News.
Now to Top Stories Global Watch, and we begin in Italy with the dramatic rescue of a toddler in the flood-stricken northern part of the country. The video shows a firefighter hoisted by a helicopter taking the sick 2-year-old girl from a balcony to safety. Torrential rains have devastated this area this past week, causing flooding and landslides that have killed at least 13 people. In Colombia, the race is on to find 4 missing children who are believed to have survived a plane crash. The bodies of 3 adults were recovered from the wreckage of the May 1st accident, but the 4 children on the plane were not found. Search teams did find some of their belongings in the jungle, suggesting they're alive and looking for help. The children range from 13 years old to an 11-month-old baby. And in Mexico, growing fears a towering volcano could soon erupt. Video showing the volcano spewing lava and gas into the air. Schools shutting down for more than 100,000 students. Scientists say they are monitoring the volcano around the clock. 22 million people could be at risk if it erupts, but authorities say the current risk level is moderate. Coming up next, one incredibly inspiring graduate, a student who was paralyzed from the neck down after surviving a shooting, determined to walk across the stage to get his diploma. We'll show you that emotional moment next. Back now with an unforgettable moment. A shooting paralyzed a Virginia college student, but what just happened at his graduation was a real lesson in the power of possibility. These small steps mean a lot to Khalil Watson.
It's been a journey. It's been lots of ups and downs.
In 2016, Khalil was shot in the neck. The resulting spinal cord injury left him paralyzed from the neck down.
I had to learn how to eat, speak, and breathe on my own.
One of the things he missed while in the hospital, his high school graduation. Khalil was determined to continue his education, studying social work in college.
I have a passion for helping others. After going through the things that I've experienced, I feel like I'll be able to either connect with and understand individuals who have similar worst situations.
Now, thanks to some help from this robotic exoskeleton and therapist at Sheltering Arms Institute in Virginia, Khalil stepping up onto this stage at Reynolds Community College, walking to receive his associate degree in pre-social work.
I did this for God, myself, friends, my family. I mean, only a few people who know what it took for me to get to this point.
Now, with his diploma in hand, Khalil is sharing this message.
Anything is possible. In life, we're going to experience ups and downs. You just have to keep going.
And Khalil's not stopping there. He's transferring to VCU to work on his bachelor's and master's degree in social work, one step at a time. Thanks so much for watching Top Story. For Tom Llamas, I'm Gabe Gutierrez in New York. Stay right there. More News Now is on the way.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.